Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to Kicker Rock's podcast, Two Drink Minimum. This episode, we are talking about Disney and Pixar's new film, Soul. So if you haven't seen that film yet, please do not listen to this podcast. Or do if you like being spoiled about movies. Maybe you're one of those people. That's fine. Either way, thank you for joining us. Sit back, relax, have a drink, and enjoy. You know what that sound means. It's time for Kicker Rock's podcast, Two Drink Minimum. I am Bill.
I'm Sergio.
Tony Marino.
James.
Laura.
And cheers to you all. And today we are talking about a Disney Pixar film that just recently came out. And it had to have just recently come out because for the first time in a long time, this is a film that none of us had seen. So we all got to watch it on our own, of course, but we all got to watch it, and now we are going to discuss it. And that film is Soul, which just came out recently. So if you have Disney Plus, check it out. Spoilers for that movie, just in case you're one of those people who doesn't like to get spoiled on their Pixar films. We are going to talk about the film and any spoilers that may come up throughout. So just before we get started, guys, before we discuss whether or not we like the film and recommend it and whatnot, here's a brief synopsis, and this is on IMDb. I'm just going to read right from there. So, Soul, a musician who has lost his passion for music, is transported out of his body and must find his way back with the help of an infant soul learning about herself. Joe is a middle school band teacher whose life hasn't quite gone the way he expected. His true passion is jazz, and he's good. But when he travels to another realm to help someone find their passion, he soon discovers what it means to have a soul. There you go. So, I'll just get started. I loved it. I thought this was a very heartfelt film. Pixar usually hits pretty strong with me. I don't know. I'd have to think really hard if they have any weak films, in my opinion, for my tastes. But I loved it. Everything about it, the animation, the overall story, the acting in it, the humor. It also tugs at your heartstrings. It had a little bit of everything I would expect from a Pixar film. So I think really good way to start off the year. If you're Disney, I think so. End the year with Mandalorian, start the year with Soul. Not bad so far. Not bad.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I'll say that it's not as laugh out loud as many of the other Pixar films that I watch are, but it was really good. It was cute. I'd say that it's a cute movie that's done well. And you mentioned the animation, and I think 2 or 3 times when Jess and I were watching it, I was like, Jesus, Pixar just keeps getting better and better at what they do. That whirly bird, the maple seed, that's like floating down with the sunlight coming through, was just like, holy crap. And then some of the jazz scenes with the lights and the shadows in the club were just incredible.
Tony, 100%. That's exactly what I meant when I said the animation is incredible.
Yeah.
It usually is for Pixar, but this to me seemed like a step up, even to that. This is on like a different level. It's really, really good.
It did, but you know what was kind of funny is that like I was playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption right before I played it, so it was like I was playing a game with like really realistic CG graphics, but that had real human proportions. Yeah. Whereas then like I watched that like after just spending hours of playing that, and then like it was like the animation was so advanced that it's like the classroom, like in the beginning, like looked so like realistic and stuff that it was like the cartoon heads almost kind of fucked me up for a second, like made me feel like I was like having some weird acid trip or something. It took me a minute to like readjust to the fact that I was watching an animated movie, because it almost looked like 95% real, except for the 5% that is their heads.
I'll say that like I noticed that in the scene when they're leaving the hospital and he just has the gown on and his legs are just pencil thin. That was one of those things where it was just like I see what you're saying with that. But if you want to talk about acid trip, you talk about when they go upstairs or into the waiting area or whatever it was called.
Right.
That was trippy. That was something too, where it was kind of like you take your beautiful Pixar animation that's super realistic, even if it is a little cartoony with some of the heads and stuff. And then, does anyone remember what it's called? When I'm calling it the waiting area, but I can't remember what it's called up there, where all the Jerrys are.
Right. I forget.
The animation for the Jerrys was hard for me to get used to for the first few minutes of being up there, just because it was like a version of a style of like line art in 3D and 2D. So that was a little weird to get used to at first. It was still cool.
I kind of dug that. That was fun. But it's like, I'm just kind of referring to, it almost looked like 100% like you're looking out your window when you look at like the stuff in the classroom and the jazz club in the beginning, except for the cartoon heads. So it kind of looked like somebody could walk in this room right now and they'd be speaking to me with a cartoon head, and I'd be like, like, what the hell? I don't know. I readjusted to it by the time they got back on Earth, but like, I don't know. It was kind of funny for a minute. I was almost like, what the hell is going on? Why am I watching a real movie, but everybody has screwy cartoon heads?
So one thing that I wanted to comment on about that, and particularly the animation, is because, well, first I thought this was a beautiful movie about life and death, and I felt the exact same way about the animation. And parts of me really felt like that was intentional to make the real world feel as real as possible. Granted, the people are animated, but the real world felt real. Because I think from a juxtaposition of life and death, they intentionally wanted the afterworld to look and feel abstract, where you have reality being as real as possible, where, death just having this whole different, all the way down to those people, the Jerrys, the abstract. I don't know if it's Picasso or it's a very specific.
It reminded me of Picasso.
Art.
Yeah.
It was a very specific art style that to me was like just abstract art deco stuff that was happening. And
it was weird. It was like neo-cubist, but it was 2D also.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
It was just a really cool, for me, portrayal of the afterlife.
I think that was intentional too, because at some point you actually do see that Terry guy like living inside a cubist painting and then jumping off of it.
Exactly.
I think part of it too was intentional in the way that the place that we see isn't actually the afterlife. Like, we don't go on that conveyor belt all the way up and experience that.
Right.
But we get sent down to where these like young, innocent, brand new baby souls live, where they're just kind of pending in existence, right? To be able to assimilate on Earth. And I think that line drawing was kind of a nod to how kids draw also, in a way of just kind of keeping it really abstract, but still really just to the point. There wasn't anything extra or fussy about them at all in any way. You just knew exactly what it was because it was so simple. And I think that too was done intentionally because they're lifelike and they have a lifelike quality to them, but they're not actually alive in the way that the souls are. So there had to be some kind of separation to show that they're not real.
That's true. And there might even be a level of condescension to it from like the Jerrys, because like, I think even he asks like, why do you look like that? And he says like I'm just, merely presenting myself as something your peanut brain would, like understand or something.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that was the exact phrase.
Janet from The Good Place.
Yeah, they looked, I do dig that. I dig that there were two different worlds created. Maybe even three if we go to I'm trying to think of what the dark place was called, but where the mystics are.
Oh, with all the lost souls.
Yeah, the lost souls. Yeah. That's the lost souls room. Anyway, Beetlejuice? No? Okay. All right. We tried. But yeah, no, I think you're right on that. Where it's the two different worlds and it's on purpose, Serge. I agree with that. That's very makes sense, right? It just makes sense to have as realistic as it can look while still being animated, and also, a little puffball Souls world or whatever,
Mhm.
right? That is all abstract and stuff. I thought that was very, very cool. That's a good point, Laura. I didn't think of that. I guess I thought of the Souls place as the afterlife, but we fully didn't see it because we never do
Yeah,
take that ride into the big
Yeah.
great beyond, right? Into that
right.
conveyor belt.
Mm.
That big buzzing, it might as well have been a bug catcher or something, right? Or something.
Hmm.
Who knows? Yeah. That's cool. It's a good point. I didn't think of that.
That was wise. It was kind of like, I don't know, in my comic book I did that too, where it's like, I show a piece of the afterlife, but I don't actually show heaven or hell or anything. So they kind of got their cake and ate it too, where they show like what happens to souls before they enter the body and stuff, but they don't show after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. Very good stuff. So that's, the overall gist. I took some notes, so maybe that'll, I'd like to just say some things I wrote down if you guys don't mind and see what that sparks.
Sure.
Segue,
Go
because
for it.
find your spark, right? That's one of the themes I think to this film. And Joe, the musician, thinks he's played by Jamie Foxx, first of all, who does an excellent job in this. I think he does very, very good in this role. So he's searching for his spark. He thinks he knows what his spark is, the entire time, right? And that's jazz and to play the piano and everything like that, and that's what it means. But it takes on a deeper meaning as the film goes on, and ultimately as it gets to the end, what it truly means to live, right? To live and to die, for that matter, right? What your spark is, what your purpose is, and it is what you make of it. So I thought that was a very powerful theme. Pixar usually does a good job of weaving, you know, more serious themes and messages into their stories, but I thought
Mhm.
this one especially was it's a tricky subject to weave into it, and I think
Yeah.
they did an excellent job with that, with the finding the sparks. Anybody's thoughts on that or other themes of this film?
I found this, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was beautiful. I think I had heard a little more hype in terms of it being really emotional and really profound and really, like solidifying. And I felt like it was really abstract and open ended. And I don't feel like there was an answer to that question ever as
Right.
to like what was the point of this film, because it went in a lot of different directions. And at one point you're not really, I guess I anticipated it to be about him and his life and his mission. And then you have all of these other characters. So then there was a point where, when he was in the cat's body and kind of watching someone else connect on his behalf because he wasn't inside his body, I was like, oh, maybe the theme of this movie is connection and how powerful it is that you need your circle and your people and those moments to keep you grounded and present, and it comes from community. And then as soon as I kind of thought that was what they were going for, it went back off in a different direction. And I really felt like this one was really short, and I still feel like it was pretty open-ended. Like, I don't know if I had any solid opinion because after viewing it once and very recently, I watched it just before this, I still don't really know if I understand the message, because I felt like it was pretty vague, which maybe is the point, because you can't identify the purpose of life for everybody. So maybe the whole point is that it's up to your own interpretation and it's up to your own, experiences. As I guess that's the point. I don't know. I felt like this one was way more tailored to adults and not at all to kids. Like, the animation was cute enough and sweet enough and nothing was scary enough that kids could watch it. But I think way over their heads, like, this movie I felt like was intended for grown-ups more than any other Pixar movie has been in the past.
So can I jump in? I got a couple
Yeah,
of comments.
go for it.
All of that. So first, I'm going to quote an article that I read back in the Toy Story era when Pixar first started. And
Mhm.
one thing that I thought this journalist said perfectly about Pixar films is that they assume their audience is smart opposed to assume their audience is dumb, which
I
most
like
Disney
that.
movies did. Yeah, they in the past you would assume that the audience is dumb, so there's a lot of explaining.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like over the years, Pixar has made that idea of assuming your audience is smart so well that we got to a point now where I do think you're right. I do think this is a very much an adult topic, but I think that they also are really good to make sure that it translates well to both adults and children so that the whole family can enjoy it.
Right.
In regards to the meaning, and I could be wrong too, but I thought that they were very direct on what the meaning was with the final, I think it was the final line when they sent Joe back. They asked him, what is he going to do with his life? And now that he's just realized that the spark isn't, playing an instrument or being a gymnast or anything, it's really just taking the time to enjoy life to the fullest.
Mm.
I took that as the main message they were trying to convey.
Yeah, because that is his last line where he says, "I don't know what I'm going. What is it? Something along the lines of, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to live it to the fullest," or something like
I'm
that.
going to enjoy every minute of it.
To me, that was as straightforward an answer. But then also, to your point, Laura, it was also it's almost like the simplest answer that anyone can take away, whether
Mhm.
you're an adult or a child. But I do agree with you on there was a lot of the story was kind of breaking off into different segments,
Mhm.
especially with them jumping into Earth and jumping out and then getting back and all those things. So, but yeah, I mean, I for me, the message was clear, but I could be wrong. Maybe they're trying to say something else.
No, I hear you. There was like a little bit of vagueness toward the end because there was a little bit of that, but like the spark was also a thing because it was like they actually showed that montage of him like they didn't overly state it, but they did show that montage of him like helping all kinds of people out. You know what I mean? So it was like, and he did spend most of the movie like teaching 22, and then like he ended up kind of being a teacher in
That's
the
where I
end.
thought it was going. Yeah. I thought he was so sure that jazz and music and playing the piano was his spark, but really was going to wind up being teaching and inspiring and being a mentor, right? He kind of sneaks into being a mentor in the afterlife world. And I thought that was going to wind up being his legit calling. I thought that's where they were going, at least at first.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, I have written down Cat was a surprise. Because that, I think that's where it's going. And I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to live in this world for a bit. And then they take the jump and he's in the cat body. And all of a sudden I'm like, all right. Okay, I'll go with this. Let's see what happens now. And I thought that was an interesting way to show, a little bit more into Joe's life. When it's not really him and his body. That was an interesting way to tell that story. I just didn't see it coming. I thought it was going in a completely different direction. And by the end, he was going to realize that teaching and his ability to give towards others was his true spark and gift.
Mhm.
It didn't go that way. It did a little bit because it did show, like JT just said in the montage, it did, I thought it kind of made a little bit of an emphasis on those moments too, where he was teaching and helping people.
Yeah.
But then in the end, I think the message that they're going for, I think is everyone has their own spark, and you just have to figure out what that is, right? And
Mhm.
and it's going to be different for everybody, and to live life to the fullest, whatever that means for you. There is no wrong answer. I think for each individual. I don't know. That's how I interpret it as. I also do feel like it was left a little bit open because the way it does just kind of cut to black after that, and I do kind of want to see. Well, wait. So did he stick with the band? I don't think he does. I don't know. To me, my interpretation is he doesn't, and he goes back to teaching. Who knows? But I don't know. They did leave that part open, and I did want a little bit more closure with that story too, and I didn't get it. So that was kind of different for a Pixar film too, where they just kind of cut like that.
Yeah, like I'm fine with movies that leave an ending open for interpretation, like, or hey, look, you guys decide what happens here. That's fine, but in this specific case, like I wanted a little bit more with the ending. Like I wanted to know what happened to 22.
Right.
I was interested to see what Joe's next steps were. And when it didn't happen, and when it did give that final line, it was like, oh, okay, like that's still nice. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the point of all this, is to just enjoy life.
As cliche as it would have been, I wanted the moment where he sees 22 in someone's body,
100%,
and there's a recognition, and that's all it had to be. I wanted that, and I know that would have been like, oh, of course they're gonna do, but I wanted that anyway.
So yeah, and I think that's the bow that people wanted that we weren't going to get, and after I had gotten that, like I did some not digging, but just some looking around to see, what their point was by this, and there was actually an article talking to one of the writers where they said, they had a couple different alternate endings that they were trying with, but their ending that they gave was like entirely by design. They wanted that because I guess a couple of the endings that they tried, they said that on their end there was something that was sort of like innately not satisfying about it. And this is what one of the writers said, Kemp Powers. Like one of the alternate endings was that Joe's touring with the quartet and teaching students privately on the side. And at one point, 22 is a new student and he notices that it's her. So like that's too on the nose, where it's like you actually end up teaching music to 22. You know what I mean? But had there just been something where they're passing, or he sees a kid grab a sucker out of the barbershop bowl or something like that, that would have been more like, oh, look, there it is. She's fine. Right. He's fine. But I guess they just sort of left it open because that's what they wanted.
The whirly bird, right? The whirly bird should have.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really did enjoy it. I don't want to sound like I'm like dogging on it or whatever. I would give it like an 8 out of 10 or a B+ or whatever. But it's like, maybe they should have been a little more on the nose with the ending, just because like, also because it makes sense that you're telling me this, that they had like a couple of different ideas, because it's like, I wonder how far along, or alternate endings, I wonder how far along in the process they had said alternate endings, because they did show the montage of him like teaching all those people and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I know that like, it's like, and we all know that animation takes like a long, long time. So it's like that stuff was already done. You know what I mean? So it's like, at what point did they, in the edit or in the voiceover, you know what I mean, like decide what the final closing thoughts would be? You know what I mean? Like you could probably rearrange the footage and like change the voiceover to have it be more on the nose with certain things, like, and be about the spark and the teaching and stuff like that. So
who knows? Maybe there's some sort of Easter egg in the montage that we missed that shows us what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one that I'm going to re-watch just because I feel like maybe I missed some things. But also now that you guys are talking about it, I think I'm pretty sure, and this is why I'm going to rewatch it, so we can have like an addendum to this statement, but I'm pretty sure that they use the word spark with the new souls, right? Because they are almost complete. They're just looking for that one thing, right? But the character what was his name? Joe? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He keeps referring to it as his life's purpose. He has to pursue his life's purpose. He was born to do this. He was made to do this. He has to fulfill his life's purpose. And so maybe that's the disconnect of the point that they were trying to make, is like, no, it's not about one life's purpose and you fail, if you don't achieve it. Maybe it is just about these tiny little things that make you complete, these tiny little
that's
parts.
true.
And maybe that's the message that I kind of was waiting for to be more profound. But if I watched it again, I might catch it, because I do think there was a very clear difference between the wording that was used in the soul world versus the real world.
That's true. That's a good point. Especially when you think about that in terms of the barbershop guy that talked about how he wanted to be a veterinarian.
Right.
And that, like, and then he said, like, well, you missed your purpose. And then he's like, I don't know. No, I'm pretty good. Like,
Yeah, he was very
he's
happy
like,
with his.
he's still happy because he's living life doing what he's doing.
Yeah, and
Like,
maybe that's
it's
the
like,
montage is it wasn't to show like what he could have done or what he has done in the past, but just to show that it wasn't necessarily a life's purpose, but all those moments were like little sparks that hit within him, whether he could identify it or not, while he was so
yeah, that's
busy,
true.
while he was so busy denying that those things made him happy because he was too focused on wanting to be something else.
Right.
That's true.
And in that whole barbershop scene when he was just there as the cat, like that was profound too, because he got so much enjoyment out of hearing from the barber's perspective of his life and what was going on with him. And he even said, I didn't know that about you. And he's like, well, you never asked. So, that was a huge part of it too, where I think he grew his character grew at that point where it was like, oh, there is more to life than just what he thought his purpose was.
That's true. All right. You know what? I think I got actually talked out of my stance from 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because the more we are, the more I'm realizing I think I enjoy, and I did enjoy it. I did, but it's definitely deeper.
I did enjoy it, but when I think of it compared to like Inside Out, which I believe was also Pixar,
Yes,
is that right?
Yes.
And Disney, I mean that one. In terms of like soul crushing moments and this whole journey that you're going on, literally watching this child lose her innocence in terms of these characters that live inside of her emotions, live inside of her body. You're watching Fantasyland crumble to pieces as she starts to lose her ability to have make believe. You know what I mean? Like that stuff from the start to finish was so profound. Like, and how could you miss it? The message was very clear, and it was devastating to be like, to watch it as an adult and be like, wow, I wonder if I can pinpoint when my joy left or when my trust left or when my imagination left or my ability to see things, creatively left. And I just became this zombie adult. This one was just like, it was not that, which confused me because I felt like Pixar usually is that profound. So I'm a little like, I didn't hate it. I thought the
maybe
animation,
just that on the nose, whereas this time they actually kind of played with it and diverted you a little before they got to the point, I guess. Maybe.
Right. I mean, the animation was beautiful. Yeah. It's nice to see a character of color portrayed as the main character. Mm-hmm. There's beautiful, the animation, like the sign twirling guy who was just insane. And I cannot imagine how long it took to draw his scenes where he is just grooving with that sign. That was incredible. And the whole time I was just like, man, bless this person who created this character and committed to that, because that's huge. But yeah, I'm still kind of confused by it. I mean, there were two moments that made me kind of sit up. And the one was like when they were in the soul world and the little baby souls are bouncing around and they knocked down the thing and it like crushed, it like fell on top of a bunch of them. And he's like, oh! And then 22 is like, literally says, oh, don't worry, you can't crush a soul here. That's what Earth is for. Yeah. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. That one made me like sit up and take notice. And then in the very end, when 22 gets their chance to go and wants to go and is ready to go, and they hold hands and kind of jump into the void, and he goes, I'll stay with you as far as I can go. Or
she tells him, you can't go with me, right? I'll stay with you as long as I can.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the Pixar moment, right?
Yeah.
That's I mean, like as soon as I saw that, I'm like, you know, that moment got me. I won't lie. Mm-hmm. The music, the build up to that. The fact that he jumps with her, that's I remember thinking when that happened, I'm like, that Pixar. There you go. Yeah. There's that moment in every film, right? That's a good moment. I like that a lot at the end there.
There was a part that I wasn't sure how I felt about when they were up there and they were first creating the souls or giving the souls a bit of personality. They were filling out their badges, and I'm gonna be wrong on this, but it was something along the lines of like, all right, you guys have this, you have this, and over anxiousness for you guys. And I was like, huh, kind of seems like they're predetermining these people to be how they're going to be. And I was like, maybe this is Pixar's way of helping kids that might be over anxious or they might have that. And it's like, hey, look, you're okay. You know what I mean? There's other people that have these things going on. So I wasn't sure how I felt about that part. Do you guys know what part I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other one was self-assuredness, and he says we're getting a lot of those lately.
Yeah, that was one of them too. And I was like, and there were funny parts of that too, but I was like, I wonder why they decided to go that route. You know, I thought maybe that was the reason, but I wasn't sure.
I don't know.
Right.
I didn't read too much into that part. I honestly thought they were going for a running joke
Right.
throughout. That's kind of how I just interpreted it. But yeah, there is also then, so are these souls predestined to have that base level of, right? Who knows? I don't know. With their personality, right? I don't know. But I took it as they were going for some broad jokes there with those, I think. But I don't know. That's my thought on it.
Did anyone notice the lack of talks of any specific religion, and even the not even saying the word hell or heaven?
Oh, they
They
said hell.
spelled it. They spelled hell. Oh, they did say hell. The
Yeah.
kids all did. The souls all
That-
did say hell.
That part was hilarious because he was like,
Yeah.
H double hockey sticks, and then they all kept going,
You know what though? You're right. I didn't notice that they didn't mention any specific religion at all.
Yeah. And the one thing that did pique my interest was when they were first explaining the souls, and I might be misquoting this, but one of the Jerrys basically said, referred to one of the souls as being a recycled soul, or just coming back from recycling. And to me, it was like, oh, is that like kind of to make sure that all religions, without talking about religions, are like brought into this storyline? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that they chose that particular dialogue at that point.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
It's interesting.
I hear you. Yeah, they didn't really get into any. They didn't get too far into any religious aspect
Exactly.
of it. I don't think.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Yeah, there was something that struck me though, just with the way that they portrayed the little baby souls in that world, where my friend Mallory and I were recently talking about this book, and she thought she was bringing it to my attention, and she was like, oh, have you heard of this? And I was like, yes, actually, I have a copy, and I've read it 5 times with a different color highlighter every time over the years when I revisit it. And it's called God Wears Lipstick, and it's I think a conversational breakdown of the Kabbalah type culture, which I believe is a branch of Judaism. And there's a part in it where they talk about baby souls that sit on clouds and literally wait for the moment of inception that they're created, but they choose very intentionally, like, I want these parents, I like this moment, I like this time on earth, I like this, blah, blah, blah. And they like very specifically pick their own destiny.
Huh. That's interesting. That kind of falls into this a bit.
Yeah. And so that was kind of playing a little bit in the back of my mind, where I was like, oh, I wonder if there are any, and I'm not religious at all in any way. I'm very much more spiritual, but I don't ascribe to any deity or being or power or anything like that. But I was wondering if anybody else that does have a tie to religion noticed other things like that were either vague or direct, that applied to anything that they had been taught or studied.
No, just the escalator leading up into a bright white light is a little on the nose, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, not really. The afterlife kind of seemed like limbo, where the souls were. That was kind of like limbo or purgatory or whatever.
Purgatory.
Kind of had that feel of it, especially the lost souls area. So I would say, yeah, I do see some tie-ins to Christianity through that, but you can see a couple different religions, I think, if you look for them in this. I don't think they specifically honed in on one. But yeah, I did see some from my own
I would be
religious
surprised if,
upbringing.
if
I'm like,
Pixar or any animation honed in on a specific religion. Like
True.
I would find that very odd, but I just didn't know if there were other type of symbology that was represented that I wasn't aware of, just because I'm not a religious person.
Well, if you look at the 10-minute mark in every scene, there's a crucifix in the background. And clearly there's a Bible in the background every 5-minute mark.
No, this isn't a Zack Snyder movie.
What were you going to say, Sergio?
That's good.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I did love their interpretation of the zone, or being in the zone, and the fact that
cool.
element lives in the same realm, of this middle space.
And when they were messing with people in the zone is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah,
that is
fun.
so funny. I mess with these guys all the time, but it's the New York Knicks.
Yeah, that was great. There were a couple of Knicks, like you saw like Knicks on people's hats and stuff too. Like, it was all over the place in that movie.
So,
it's in New York, yes.
Those people were alive, but their souls existed in this zone because they were in their spark, or in their element, right? And they were like achieving, I guess, ultimate happiness or ultimate whatever
enlightenment
it means to be enlightenment or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting to kind of think that a soul doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's just like separate from your body and it exists, as just a life or death thing, and that they can kind of coincide and exist and influence each other. Because I think even the lost souls, some of them they portrayed as just being so heavily burdened with anxiety and depression that they were stuck and out of their body in a way.
Yeah, I really liked how they portrayed that as well. Like that was cool, and that's something that makes you think too. You know what I mean?
That pencil pusher stockbroker guy was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. It's like
when he threw the monitors off the tables off of everybody else's tables. And then they pulled one of my favorite stunts in comedy that always works for me is when they cut somebody off mid-sentence. He's like, "Can't you see we're alive?" Cut back.
Very, very good. Yeah. The different mentors scene that 22 has. First of all, we haven't said this the whole time. 22 played by Tina Fey.
Oh, God, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't know that till the credits. I didn't.
Yeah, I actually paused halfway through the movie and looked up who the cast was, because I was in love with that character and thought it was done so well. And it was bothering me that maybe it was going to be Anna Kendrick or someone that I can't stand like that was doing such a good job, because she annoys the fuck out of me. And then I saw it was Tina Fey and I was like, okay, I can continue to enjoy this character. But I also was surprised by Jamie Foxx, because I thought for some reason, just based on hearing the voice, I thought that the guy, and maybe a little bit physically how the character was drawn too, I was under the impression that the lead guy was played by the actor, and I don't know his name, but he plays Randall on This Is Us. He's kind of a newer find over the past couple years.
I don't watch This Is Us. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think maybe there were just physical similarities where I was like, oh, they drew this guy after the guy who voiced it. It must be this guy. But I'm very happy with Tina Fey, and thought she portrayed a childlike version of her. So
she was great.
Yeah.
I loved it when they showed another fun scene I thought was her different mentors, where she's explaining to Joe, no, well, I already had somebody try this, and it's famous people throughout history. That part was hysterical as well. I love it.
Where she basically broke everybody that we know as unbreakable.
Exactly. Yeah, it was too good.
Like, you're cool. You're cool being on a penny. Jackson was on a 20. Jackson.
Exactly. Yeah, there were some good jokes peppered in that part. I definitely like that. Some other moments I wrote down just to get things going. When 22 tries pizza for the first time, I thought that was a very sweet moment. That was fun.
That was awesome.
New York giving itself a nod to having great pizza. Of course, they can't pass up a chance to do that. But there you go. And then we have to talk about Gyro, Sergio.
I was laughing so hard when that happened.
I never thought I'd be able to hear Tina Fey whisper my name.
Yeah.
She did.
It
was wonderful.
I caught that too. I thought that was super cute.
And play it over and over, like some kind of ASMR. Put your phone.
Bill, before you say this one moment, I want to say one moment that I just died laughing, and I think it was so subtle, which made it better for me. The sequence of him almost dying before he falls into the manhole.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The fact that he walks past a fruit stand with banana peels that spilled all over and nothing happens, that was like hilarious to me, just because of that's just a great way to extend that bit of the slipping on a banana peel. So
that was just, it was like, oh, he's totally gonna, and then nothing happens.
Exactly.
That was pretty wild. Then he just the abrupt fall down the manhole, which then leads to, that's before the title comes up. So I thought they did a pretty good job of leading up to the title sequence too. I enjoyed that. That's a good 5 minutes or so of
12-minute mark.
Oh,
Exactly.
really?
You know that I always check that stuff.
You know what I really want to do? You know what I really want to do is go back to the scene where it shows 22's area, and it shows like all of the name tags of like the people that she drove nuts of mentors. I want to like hit pause and like look
There's
at that.
jokes in there for sure.
Yeah, I saw Johnny Cash and like.
Oh really? That's great.
Yeah. And then like I just kind of zoomed past it, and I was like, all right, at some point I got to go back and pretend and pause and read all those names. There's probably maybe there's something written in there like, why are you reading this or something, you know?
I'm sure there is. Right. Well, Pixar usually does, look in the background of Pixar films and you will be rewarded. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Those animators, they like to put Easter eggs all over the place in their films. So which is
when
fun.
They were talking about people being in the zone, and then I think they were walking on something, and there were a bunch of people kind of floating above them. The only one that stood out to me, because it was so fast, and that's another place to pause and really look, was Yo-Yo Ma, and then I did notice him too in the credits. So I think everyone that they created a likeness of, they did put in the credits.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. I want to watch this movie again, but I want to watch it really stoned.
Find your spark, so to speak. That was a bad joke. Anyway.
It's all right. The listeners are used to it, Bill.
At this point, it's not going to surprise them anymore. All right. So I think we did. I did want to talk about favorite scenes. I think we've pretty much mentioned those. Unless anybody had a favorite scene that we haven't talked about yet that they want to get out there, we can move on to the final little topic for this film. We good?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything.
All right. Awesome. So I think now's the time to discuss. It sounds like we all like it for the most part, but where we're going to rate it in the library of Pixar films, I think, is the most important question right now. So that said, where do you guys put Soul in the Pixar filmography? Does it rank somewhere in the upper echelon, in the lower, right there in the middle? Maybe is it, do you want to give specific films that it might be better than, but not as good as? Something like that. Where would you put it? Ballpark. What do you think?
I have pieces missing from my Pixar filmography, so I don't know about that.
Well, I'm trying to Google Pixar films right now because I don't think I'm aware of like what exactly is Pixar and what exactly is Disney, because they merged. Did they merge at some point, or have they always been the same thing?
Disney owns Pixar, but Disney also does CG 3D Disney cartoons. They don't, but Pixar is always going to be Pixar. Like Pixar works under Disney, but like they will put their name on something if it is them.
Right. I think I want to do Pixar specifically, unless you guys want to change it up. I don't think I want to compare this to Lion King or something like that, in other words.
No. This is Pixar.
Yeah. So I'll go just to get it rolling here. I put this on the upper, but I would say for a movie that involves, being about life and death, I think Coco is maybe better.
Yes.
But Coco higher than this.
See, I haven't seen that. I got to see that.
I'd put Soul though on board with something like Onward, to be honest, and I really like Onward. But I think as far as right around there. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's the best Pixar or my personal favorite one, but I definitely think it's in the top tier of Pixar films. I'd put it right around there. So
I'd say
7 or 8 out of 10 if I had to put a number on it.
yeah. If I had to if I had to say a number out of 10, I'd say a 7 out of 10. And looking at this Pixar list right now, like Pixar's got a lot of really good films.
That's the
So
thing. Yeah.
I'd say I'd put it right in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, because heavy hitters, Toy Stories, Monsters Inc., Incredibles, like I would say it's, under those guys, but it's above
Right.
some of these other ones. So I'd say it's right in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I would, on a 10 scale, I would give it a 5 or a 6.
Okay.
I do want to watch it again because I do feel like I want to look at it with some of the things that we talked about in mind. But I think in terms of like Up and Wall-E and Coco and Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, all of those things like are way higher above. And I think it's maybe just because it had a more complete story and it didn't leave me confused. I'm still a little confused because I'm not exactly sure I understood what they were trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it was beautifully animated. For sure.
Yeah.
Fair.
And to that point, Laura, like I'd give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10 just on the animation. You know what I mean? Like
animation
it's
score
incredible.
is up there for me.
Yeah,
It's
but
very,
even
very good.
Inside Out, if you're talking about like, in a journey of emotion that's emotion based and finding joy and losing joy and all of that stuff like that one is really deep, and it just goes off on as many tangents, but every story is completed in a way that the puzzle makes sense. I'm just still kind of questioning that I don't really understand if I got the message. So I don't know. I'd give it a meh.
Meh out of 10.
Mhm.
On the Laura scale, that's a meh out of 10.
And that's pretty good.
Very good. All right, JT, search.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. And I don't even know if I have a favorite Pixar movie. I don't know. It's probably Wall-E, actually.
Mhm.
But I've only seen I guess a handful of them now because there was a point in time where I probably saw all of them like years ago, but there's been so many at this point that I don't know. But I don't know. Ranks right in the middle for me with what I've seen, which was probably like at this point Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Wall-E, Incredibles, Finding Nemo. Maybe that's it. Jeez, I don't know. Never saw Cars. I know that's like what they made a lot of money off of, but
They did. It's not. It's I don't know. That's not the best though. I'm not.
yeah.
Made a
I
lot
heard
of money
it's
because children loved Cars. I think.
I heard it's kind of rudimentary, and let's just put it out there because of the South.
Well, also too, the kinds of toys that they were able to create from
Sure.
that.
Sure.
Like every kid goes through a huge car stage where they just
Yeah.
want to play with toy cars. And so the ability for them to just mass market and mass produce shit, like no wonder it made a lot of money. Because I don't know if
Oh,
any other characters aside from the Toy Story characters that
my wife
really
likes Tomater from Cars, and there's a Tomater ornament on our Christmas tree. So their marketing was really good.
Mater. Nice.
Yeah, I like it though, but yeah, I was a little closer to Laura's points earlier when she was talking about confusion, but then I don't know. Then I forgot about the barbershop scene, and that was kind of a key moment that actually kind of like was spelling out a little bit of what the theme was before it got there at the end.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe it's a little tighter than I thought, but there also is some kind of loosey-goosey stuff. So I don't know, for the most part, 8 out of 10.
And I'm gonna fall on that same like line of 8 out of 10. I probably would have given it a higher number, except for one thing that I thought could have been better. But before I go into that, you guys already mentioned this, but like I think visually and even the sound design on this thing was just awesome. I would have loved to
Yeah.
have seen it in a movie theater. I think,
Excellent music. That's
that
a
would have
great
been
point too.
awesome.
Excellent music.
Yeah, the
Something
jazz,
different, right?
like the whole jazz scenes and all of that. Yeah, and that's definitely a, I rewatched La La Land again recently, and just that movie
Mhm.
reminded me how good jazz is. And then I saw this, and I'm like, and it's like, I don't know, is jazz going to be a big thing, for 2021? Who knows? I don't know, but it was visually like the colors and the we talked a lot about how the real world looked so real, but the way the great before looked was just, for me, beautiful and vibrant and just very pleasant to watch. So I wanted to rate it even higher. However, the only thing that made me not make this in the top like 10% of my favorite Pixar films, which for me it is Wall-E. That is my favorite one. This may be weird. I wish they would have just let him die at the end. And I wish they would have just let him go on, because I said this earlier. This is a beautiful story about life and death. It's a very hard topic to talk about. I did not see Coco, so I can't say how much they talked about life and death in that movie. But in this one, it was just like, I thought it's a very hard topic to talk about, and I thought they did a really good job for both adults and children. However, I still don't think they should have let him go back. I think they should have just let him come to the realization of, you got to live life to the fullest. And I had
that would have made the holding hands scene more powerful, right?
Mhm.
I know I said earlier I teared up, and I did, but shortly after that, where they're like, but we're going to give you a pass. I was like, oh, all right. We're fine. We're fine. I don't have to cry through the credits. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, and not even a pass to
Exactly.
like start again as a new soul but just like, oh, go back to your same old shit, but try to enjoy it this time. Don't be a dick. Like,
watch out for those manholes. Wink, wink.
I literally said that.
Yeah, that literally was a line.
Exactly.
Oh God! All right, 5 out of no. I'm kidding. No, same grade, but fair point. So awesome. Yeah. So you heard it here first, kids. You ready for the cheesy way we're going to end this? Kick Rock says that Soul has a lot of heart. Huh? No.
wow.
This is why I don't do endings. Who does them? That's right. Tony Marino, do your thing.
You've been listening to Kicker X Podcast 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, talking shop. Chicka chicka bow wow, cow now, flow now, mow now, zow now, wow now, mow now, mow now, mow now.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Did you like Soul? Did you, like us, think that movie had heart? Did you? Did you hate it? Was it not your favorite film ever? Let us know. You know where you can do that? You can write on our Facebook page. You can comment on our iTunes. You can download and subscribe to our podcast. That would be great, you guys. That would make you, the listener, in the zone if you did that right now. You can be in the zone too if you do those things. So thank you so much for supporting our podcast. Thank you for supporting us and for hanging out with us. We really enjoy it. You can tell we're having fun with these. We hope you are as well. This has been 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, and talking shop. Cheers, everybody.